Welcome, ladies. I'm super excited. Happy Monday to you. Well, today we're back again, and I've got something spectacular to be sharing with you. So, you want to make sure that if you're catching this, make sure to share this out, get it out there, and because more women need to know more about what we're sharing today, and I'm excited. So, if you're catching me on the replay, make sure to follow along and hit share and share with your other sisters that could use this information. So, welcome to this Create a $1 Million Year, where we're talking with real women, having real conversations, hosted by me, Becky LaFave, where I show you how to grow your online business, your personal brand, and your influence. So each week, I talk with different women on different topics of online business, right? How do we get it done? And so today's guest, I'm super excited to share with you. Her name is Charlotte Rooney. She says that she knew she wanted to run an online business, but she took a detour and worked and ran schools remote. This girl has been all over the place, okay? So in South Africa, in villages, emergency health responders in zones of Republican, I mean, the list goes on. She has been all over the place. Now, strategy consultant and scaling on social enterprises. So she is somebody that you want to get hooked up with and get in with and recognize all the things that she's been able to do in her life. Like, listen, ladies, we all have a story, right? And we all have life experiences that we can gift to other people. So this is the reason why I love having these conversations. Now, along her journey, she did get into burnout. So how many women right now, drop a one below if you've ever felt burnt out before? Because we've all been there. I know I have been, and it can be hard. And so she says there is no reason to ever feel burnt out in your life again. She's put that in the past, and now she's ready to share. So today's topic, we're talking about all about how to overcome procrastination. And please welcome Charlotte to the stage. Welcome, welcome, Charlotte. So happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me, Becky. I'm really happy to be here.
So share with us, where are you coming in from?
I'm in London in the UK these days.
Nice. So yes, because God only knows where you might be since you have well traveled, it sounds like.
That's true. Yeah, I spent over a decade as a humanitarian aid worker. And so, yeah, all over the place, South America, Africa, India. It was incredible. Such an amazing load of experiences, but also, I mean, as you can imagine, challenging at times.
Yeah, I bet it was. I mean, in different entities, right? Like you were just learning and growing as a human while you're helping other humans, which is, I think, is phenomenal. I love that. And
It was
sounds
such
like
an
you're
incredible
doing
opportunity. Sorry, what was
what's
that?
I said it sounds like that's what you're doing today, just in a different form.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that it did teach me moving to all of those different countries and working in all of those different places is that there's a core of who I am that never changes. And one of the things that I really value and that really matters to me in terms of feeling fulfilled is I have to feel like in some small way, I am making the world better for other people around me, that I am helping other people. And from that, I get so much energy.
Yeah. And you know what? I really truly believe that is what entrepreneur is, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you have something on your heart that you want to be able to impact more people's lives. And or we wouldn't be doing this. Let's face it, ladies, this thing is not for everybody. And this is why there's other people out there that are in the workforce, and there's other people that want to grow an online business. It's not for everyone. So I love that you shared that, because literally you have a calling. And a lot of women that are in business, we do have a calling that we are reaching higher levels for. So I love that you shared that. And this is why it's so important that we're having this conversation today, because being that there's so many of us women that really want to touch other women's lives, or whoever, I speak to women, and procrastination. Like, we see it a lot. I mean, I've been there many a times where you're scared to death to move forward. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation today. So let's get to it. Like, what are some of the common reasons why people procrastinate in their business?
There are lots of them, but I think, I mean, what you just talked about there is sort of the basis of it for me. We have a calling, we have something on our heart. Our businesses matter to us a lot. And often, on a meta level, right, the reason that we're procrastinating is because we're putting too much pressure on ourselves and on our businesses, because we are equating the idea that my business is successful with I am a good person, I am allowed to be happy, I am fulfilling my purpose and my mission in my life. And with that comes a whole lot of pressure and a whole lot of fear. But
Mm.
what if I try and it doesn't work? And from that space, it's so easy to get into the procrastination response, which is, as you say, it's like a freeze fear response of I can't move forwards because too much is riding on this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think on a big level, sort of subconsciously, that's what's going on for us. On a day-to-day basis, you're probably not thinking that as you're looking at your to-do list and not getting started. You're probably not thinking about that, but it's sort of bubbling away in the background. So on a shorter level, it tends to be things like, what is actually on your to-do list? Is it broken down enough for you to actually really be able to think concretely about how you would tackle it? If your to-do list says, figure out my branding, start a website, get 5 clients, that's too overwhelming. It's too big for you to really start on. And that's going to make it far more likely that you're going to procrastinate, because you're going to be thinking, well, I just don't know where to start. Never mind, I'll go and get myself a cup of coffee. Breaking it down really helps. The other thing that I often find is that we are not thinking about what we want to do or what we enjoy doing. We're thinking about what we think we should do. And those are the things that are on our list. And so then when you approach it, and maybe it is, batch create content for my social media for the next 30 days, whereas you're really scared of getting on camera and recording reels, you're never going to want to do that. And that's going to lead you to procrastinate. So
Oh,
thinking about, do I like what I'm planning for myself? Am I good at it? That's really going to help. And the final thing that I think really fundamentally breaks down to is, are you really procrastinating? Or is it just that you haven't actually taken the step to make a plan, so you don't know what to do next? And it's not that you're like, I'm putting this off. You're just, well, I wasn't really planning on doing it today anyway, so that's fine. So, there's loads and loads of different things that can be happening for us when
yeah,
we're
that makes a lot of sense, because if you don't know what to do, it's not considered a procrastination. You just don't know what the next step is. And I
procrastinating.
love what you said is we're constantly shitting on ourselves, right? Like
Yes.
that puts us into, I think, imposter syndrome sometimes. Sometimes if you feel like you have imposter syndrome, because I felt like that at points in my career, imposter syndrome, and that can kind of lead to burnout for one, right?
Sure.
That goes into burnout, but also procrastination. If you feel like you're an imposter in something, do you feel like that's true?
I think, yeah, definitely, because then what you're sitting there thinking is, who am I to be talking about this thing? Or somebody's going to figure out that I don't know what I'm doing. Newsflash, they're not going to figure it out. Everybody feels the same way. And, you've gotten away with it up till now, so you're clearly pretty good at hiding it. So yeah,
That's great.
that is absolutely going to make you get into that stage of not wanting to do something. Because, and as you said at the beginning, it boils down basically to a form of fear.
Yeah.
And fear is not, well, none of us enjoy acting from a place of fear. None of us enjoy experiencing fear.
Yeah.
So it does lead to, that idea that I want to hide, I want to protect myself, I want to withdraw. And we often call that procrastination, but I think it's indicative of so much more.
So underlying is that fear that really is what the underlying piece is, but we think it's procrastination, but it's really fear of, what if I don't get this right? Or what if I screw up? Or like I said, imposter syndrome, all these things start to come into play. Wow. Yeah, that's a huge thing that I think underneath the surface of what it is you need to look at. I love that you shared that. Thank you. So can you share a specific strategy or techniques that has helped you personally overcome procrastination in your own business? Because I'm sure you've had to experience this once or twice.
Everyone has. I mean, well, maybe there's one person out there who hasn't, but I definitely, absolutely. So
We're
there's
human, right? I mean, it's a human experience.
exactly. And I think, I mean, there are so many things that layer into overcoming procrastination. I think my favorite one is actually one that I learned from a teacher of mine called Simone Sol, who, if you haven't heard of, I strongly recommend finding her. She is just wonderful and talking about showing up as a human in your business.
What
And
was the name again?
her name is Simone Sol, Seol. And she talks about how running a business is it's much smaller than people think it is. It's not necessarily about the big multi-year strategy. It's not necessarily about your big branding or all of that. Running a business is all about taking those little small steps every day, one after another, that move you towards what you're trying to do. And for me, reframing my tasks and activities in that way has been massive in helping me to overcome procrastination, because it chips away at that very basis, right? That
Mm.
I've got to do something big, I've got to do it perfectly, and I've got to do it all right now. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Whereas actually, if I start thinking, no, I've got a goal that, let's say I've got a goal, I want to show up on social media and talk to my audience, communicate with my community, invite people to work with me, and I want to do that every single day. Now, you might think that means I've got to do a 30-minute live every day and post 15 times on Instagram and, whatever it is that's your bag. But actually just thinking about maybe it's one snapshot of a thought that I had in the morning on my notepad and a comment saying, hey, this is something I'm thinking about that's important to me. This is how I can help you with it. That's a small step moving towards it. And gradually, that's going to become easier and easier and easier. And every time you do it, you're providing yourself with evidence that you're not an imposter. You don't need to be afraid. You didn't die when you put something out there. And it builds that confidence that you have that you can do it. And so you don't want to procrastinate so much more because you're like, oh, but I've done this. I've done this 50 times. It's fine. And I like to think about it like that.
Like your brain starts to recognize, oh, this isn't fear. This is like, I've done this before. It's like that subconscious brain starts to kick in and go, this is a normal thing, just like going for a walk, or you start to build that, right?
Yeah, you build the habit of doing the thing that you've been procrastinating, because procrastination is also a habit, right? If you think about the way it works in your brain, you've got a task that you want to do that you don't feel super confident about. So maybe it's on your to-do list. Maybe you come in, you sit down at your desk, you open your to-do list, you see that task, your brain goes, ah, and you go off and do something else. And by doing that, every time it feels better, because that feeling of scared feels horrible. And then you go away, you feel relief, and you're teaching your brain that not doing the thing feels good. So it becomes a habit loop, and you just kind of keep doing that and keep doing that. But by breaking it down and small, what you can do is you can start teaching your brain a different habit loop, which is, I see the thing, I go, ah, I make it smaller. I find the smallest step that I can do, and I do that. And that feels good. And then I'm nice to myself about it, and that feels good. And I'm like, yay me, I did the thing. Give yourself a sticker.
Right? On the back because you showed up and you did it. It's interesting because I think a lot of times we get the advice of do the hardest, scariest thing first because everything will fall. But if that harder, scariest thing first is what's holding you back, then you end up not doing the rest. Instead, like you said, break that thing up so much that it feels so easy that it doesn't feel scary anymore. And I think a lot of people, once they hear this more, I feel like maybe it's more of a masculine approach, to be honest with you. Take the scariest thing and hit it first in the morning and then blah, 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 blah. But if you never do it,
Yeah.
you're never going to hit your goals, right? Instead of like what you said, Charlotte, is like take that big scary thing and break that down into different point of views and then tackle it from there, which I think is way more easier to do for somebody until they go, okay, I got through that, pat myself on the back and move on.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, of course, if it works for you to do the big scary thing in the morning and you do that and you feel momentum afterwards and success, and then you coast through the rest of your day, don't change it. I mean, if that works, then. But yeah, for me, that has never been the way that's worked really well for me. Doing the scary thing first just leaves me afterwards also needing to recover and needing to take some time and, possibly a nap. So
No, it's true because you get so angst up about something, and it robs your energy and your joy and all of those things. And like I said, you feel exhausted after that. How productive can you be then, for the rest of your day?
Yeah, for me, it's not the way that works for me. And that's the other thing that's been really big for me in kind of overcoming procrastination is thinking about planning my day based on my energy and my joy.
Mm,
So if I know that I mean, look, there's always going to be things in your business that you don't love doing. I
yes.
do not love doing my taxes. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who do, but I don't. And so knowing that that's something that has to happen, I have to, at the end of every month, balance the books and figure out what's going on. So, put in all the invoices and the receipts. And I don't enjoy that. But if I know I'm going to have to do that, then what I try to do is I try to plan it around things that I do enjoy.
Mm,
So and sometimes those are business things, sometimes they're not. It might be I'm going to put in all of my expense receipts and then I'm going to go to a yoga class. And that gives me that space to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to put this off because I'm almost like giving myself a prize for having done it afterwards. I mean, the way you would motivate a small child is
yes.
a really great way to motivate yourself.
I love that because there's a lot of times I find myself doing the same thing. It's like, okay, once you get this, like, take this section of time and do what you said you were going to do. And then you can go for a walk and sit outside or go outside and listen to the birds. Like, it's like a little reward and it helps give my energy back. Like, figure out, right? Just like figure out what that is for you. Because, like I said, I love that because we always are saying to our kids, why don't we do the same for ourselves?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
that way you stay out of burnout because I've been in that grind, where you feel like you got to grind it out and then you get to enjoy your life. And it's like, I'm like, why am I doing this? I want to enjoy my life as I'm doing this. Right. So I don't want to rob my happiness and my soul.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that is some great content that you just shared right there. So can you share, so if you set an achievable goal for yourself and your business, how to avoid getting that overwhelmed that we get, because we get really excited, right? And then we go after this big hairy goal, and then all of a sudden it's like once you start doing it, it's like that overwhelm is like, well, imposter syndrome comes and all these things start to come in, right? How do we not go there? How do we not get ourselves into that?
um, It's a really good question.
Help!
I often actually think about it. There's a couple of ways that I come at this. One way is actually just expect for that to come up at some and not make that mean that anything has gone wrong. So
Mm,
say you've set yourself a goal. You said, I want to make, $1 million in my business this year. I want to make $100,000 in my business this year. I want to make $10,000 in my business. I guess it depends on where you are in your journey, right? And it feels exciting and it feels like a stretch. And you're like, I'm going to be so proud of myself when I get to do this, when I can see that number. And that's great. It's really motivating and it's important. And then, you start implementing your plan and you get, I don't know, to month 3 and you're not on track. Expect that that's going to happen. Our plans don't work always exactly the way that we want them to. But just because you're not on track or something didn't work out exactly the way that you expected it to is not in and of itself a problem. It doesn't mean that you're bad at your business. It doesn't mean you're not going to hit your goal. It doesn't, it's just like, oh, here's some information. I'm going to make an adjustment. I'm going to do things differently. So there's that element of like, you are potentially going to feel overwhelmed and off track at some point. And that's okay.
yeah. I think that's what people need to really hear is it's okay. like you're like said, recognize it, right? And be okay in that. Because I think we tend to go and beat ourselves up. Ladies, if this is resonating with you and you're like, yes, drop in and let us know. Because I really feel like people feel like it's not okay.
Yeah.
Feel that way.
You should be, it's what you were saying, well, we should all over ourselves, you know, you have this idea of like, I should be enjoying every moment of what I'm doing because I chose this business for myself and I chose to follow my heart and to follow my mission. And so I should be loving every second, bouncing out of bed at 5 a.m., you know, grinning ear to ear, productivity overload. And life isn't like that. And even if you are doing something that lights you up and that really aligns with the change you want to see in the world, and you're trying to be nice to yourself and you're setting goals and you're trying to work towards them and you're trying to do all of those things, there's still going to be some days which feel awful.
Yeah.
Because we're human. And that's just the way it is.
It's like you have family and you have kids and you have your health, right? You have all these other obstacles sometimes that are in the way.
Yeah. And it doesn't, I think the problem comes when we make it mean something big about ourselves or about our business. And like I was saying at the beginning, on a meta level, the reason we procrastinate is because we are making it mean so much about ourselves, our worthiness, our business's worthiness, our ability to succeed. Whereas it's just the ups and downs of life. And if we're able to step back and say, of course I occasionally have a bad day. Of course, sometimes I look at my revenue and my goal revenue and they're not in line and that doesn't feel great. Of course I have doubts. But I'm still going to go off and do the things that I want to do because I enjoy them and I love helping people, and reconnecting in that moment to your why is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do, which is something that was recommended to me by in a book called Finish, can't remember the guy's name, John Arif or something like that. He talks about how a lot of people love starting things. Starting goals is really exciting. Continuing to the end, less so. And so he talks about a strategy that works really well for him and his clients, which is, if you get to this space of feeling really overwhelmed and like you just can't keep going and you're ready to throw in the towel, take your goal and cut it in half. And then see how you feel about it.
Yeah. You know, they feel, I've been there many a times. My clients have been there many a times. Becky, doesn't look like I'm going to achieve it. It's like you said, break it down. Like, okay, well, you had this goal. Now, how can we, you know, take it down a notch and hit that so you can go like this, right? And keep moving forward. Because I recognize too, just by you saying that, a lot of women that I work with, and I'm sure you've worked with, feel like if they don't hit the goal, they start to make a meaning out of it, like you said earlier, the bigger picture, right? Instead of looking at it and going, okay, well, that was the runway I was on, but the runway is not how I planned it because the runway looks like this, not like this, right?
Yeah.
How can I still achieve a goal and feel proud of myself to keep moving, right?
Yeah.
Moving. Thank you, Kimberly, for joining us. So, you know, I love that. Break down the goal a little bit differently, whether it's a money goal or anything, right?
Start thinking about what you have achieved. So a personal example, which worked for me. So my goal of in the last quarter of last year was to get 5 new clients. And I got 2. And I could have turned this into a really big deal. And I'm not going to lie, I did have a couple of days where I was not very nice to myself. I definitely was not practicing what I preach. And I was starting to have all of those thoughts of, maybe I'm just not meant to do this. Maybe my business will never be successful. I could just go back to corporate. You know, I mean, McKinsey will take me back. They did say so. I could just go and do that. And I did have to take that step back and go, no, wait a minute. First off, 2 new people. That's amazing. That's 2 people that I'm able to help in my 3-month program. Brilliant. I learned so much about, you know, in the Thomas Edison way, you know, I haven't failed. I found 1,000 ways that don't work. You know, exactly that. I found 1,000 ways that don't work. And yeah, it did take me a while. And as somebody who spends their time helping other people with that, of course, I then also, there was a part of my brain that wanted to make a big story about that.
Right.
Oh, well, how can you possibly be a coach who helps people have fun in their business and move on with procrastination and not burn out when you are doing all of these things? Like, well, because I'm a human.
Right. And I love that you shared that because there's so many women that put meaning behind that. Frankly, myself, I've done it before. And sometimes it helps sharing it with another sister that really wants to see you succeed. Maybe you have a husband that can encourage you, whoever, get around somebody, right? That can see it for what it is. Because sometimes you can't, let's face it.
Mhm.
We get into our own ish and we can't see it, instead of saying, recognize, like, yeah, two people, that's amazing, because two people, you've got to help change their life in a different direction, on your way to hitting the goal, right? Like, so you didn't hit the 5. I love that because I've done that myself, and my husband's had to say, babe, like, but look what you did achieve, and look who you did help, and look what you're doing. Like, quit beating yourself up, right?
Yes.
Shooting on yourself and doing all things. So I love that because I know so many women right now can totally relate to this conversation we're having. Because listen, nobody's perfect. We're not perfect. We're human, having a human experience, helping others do the same. You're just so much further ahead than somebody else that you can guide and walk along the path with. It doesn't mean you're perfect, because I always say this to my clients, so, and you probably do too. It's like, if you're perfect, nobody wants to hang out with you anyway. Right? Like, because I'm not a perfect human. And to live up to somebody else's standards of being perfect is like too overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, no
Yeah.
thanks, right?
If you were around someone who was perfect, I actually said this to a coach of mine one time when we were talking about my goals, and I felt like I was self-sabotaging all the time. And she was like, well, I mean, take yourself forwards to where you imagine that you're going. What does that goal look like to you? And I explained it all. And then I went, oh my God, he's insufferable. And then of course you're like, well, of course I'm not working towards that goal. I hate that person. I don't want to become that person. So it is important, yeah, to think about that, to remember that we're all human, to think of the things that are working. I mean, our brains are so good at
Yeah.
picking up on what isn't working, and we think that's the best way of improving. It's often the way we've been taught, like in schools, it's always pointing out all of your mistakes. This, you need to relearn this bit because you got it wrong. You need to relearn this bit because you got it wrong.
Right.
And it's actually not very motivating.
No.
If it were motivating, you'd have hit all of your goals by now because you've been doing it to yourself your whole life.
Exactly. And I love the story about, oh, what's her name that did Spanx? Her company was Spanx.
Oh,
Her
I
name is
don't
not on the
know.
top of my head right now. But her dad every day said, what did you fail at today? What did you fail at? Because he wanted to encourage failure, because failure
Mm.
is moving you forward. What is her name? That's going to drive me crazy. But so, and because they're always, like I said, in school, always trying to, if you failed at it, you're doing bad. It was like a bad thing. He said, no, if you're failing at it, it means you're working towards something. You're going after your dreams. And it doesn't matter how many times you fail. It's like I said, I found so many ways that I can get myself out of this to be in the winning situation. Because if you're waiting to be perfect, you're never going to be, right? All of those sayings that we hear is really the truth of the matter. So I love that you shared that, because it's so true. We tend to beat ourselves up. And I did years ago, I heard from a coach, she would say, and it was hard for me at first. And I've been, a very successful person for 32 years, owning my own business. And she said, what did you celebrate this week?
Mm.
I couldn't find one thing to celebrate. Charlotte, I thought, this is ridiculous, right? Because you're so busy grinding in your business that, like you said earlier, we don't even take the time to recognize all the things that we did achieve. No, we're just looking at the things that we didn't. And
Yep.
I remember her just making that statement. What did you celebrate? I had so many things to celebrate, but I had nothing to celebrate.
Yeah.
So many of us do this.
It's a great question to ask yourself. What went right this week? What can I celebrate this week? What am I proud of? What did I learn? What did I enjoy? I often ask my clients, when was the last time that you were really having fun? And it's
Yeah.
incredible how many people have to really take some time to dig to find, even in their business or outside of their business, the last time they really remember having fun.
It's so true. And I think especially since we get to this age, when did we forget how to be a child? Right?
Mm.
It's like, don't color outside the lines. It's like really indoctrinated in school to be this perfect human robot, which we're not. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation today. So, okay, so what role, because I think this is a big one, time management plays in overcoming procrastination and some of the effects of time management strategies for busy, let's face it, ladies, we're all busy in our life, right? What are some strategies that can support us in this?
I think it really depends on the person. There are some people who find that strategies like time chunking, saying, I'm going to spend an hour on this thing, then I'm going to take a 10-minute break, then I'm going to spend an hour on this thing, that works really well for people. I hate it personally, doesn't work for me, because it always interrupts me when I'm in the middle of flow and I don't like it. So I tend to do more along the lines of, I'm going to complete a certain thing or a certain number of things, and then I'm going to take a break, regardless of how long those things take, because it means that if I'm really having a good time and I'm right in something, I don't have an alarm that pops up and says, take a break, because I find that for me, that just makes me angry. So I think you need to know a little bit about yourself and what works for you, and experiment. They do say that for things that you don't find super engrossing, often deciding to do, say, 25 minutes or 30 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break can be really helpful, because it helps you to have sort of fresh energy and a fresh focus. So that's something that's definitely worth trying. I also like to think about it in terms of managing time and enjoyment, and energy and enjoyment. So are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? When do you find that you have the most energy and willingness to tackle something big, and plan your big things at that time in your day? So if you find that actually I feel most creative at 4 p.m., plan to do your creative work at 4 p.m. And it takes time. You have to pay attention to these things over a couple of weeks and tweak as you go until you find something that feels really good to you. Plan in things that you enjoy regularly. I think that's really important, to make sure that you are topping up your energy and feeling like you're enjoying things. I love to use an exercise that's called the red and green activities list when you're doing this, which is basically, as you finish a task, wherever you record the tasks that you have finished, whatever works for you, keep doing that. You do not need to change and use some magic new app unless that excites you. Pen and paper works, or your calendar, or whatever. I like to put basically a smiley face or a frowny face. Did I enjoy doing that? And then a plus or a minus in terms of, do I feel like I have more energy or less energy now that I finished it? And then over time, you build up data, which allows you to see, this type of activity I enjoy, this type of activity energizes me, this type of activity not so much. And then you can balance your days as you go through. And maybe that means that you're making a few adjustments. You woke up this morning, you had planned to do a bunch of things that you don't really enjoy and don't really energize you, but you're already feeling really down. Maybe today's not the day. So I think time management for me a lot is just a bit inflexible, and so it doesn't suit my personality. But there are other people who it absolutely does. And if it works for you, and saying, this activity takes me 2 hours, I'm going to plan it between 9:30 and 11:30 on Tuesday morning, and then I'm going to take 15 minutes for a break, and then I'm going to do this 45-minute activity. If that works for you, great. Keep up with it. But if it feels constraining and you don't enjoy it, then there are other ways you can be a little bit more flexible and still be productive, and still give yourself a plan that you can follow, which will then kind of throw up for you the places where you start to procrastinate, the activities that keep coming up and you didn't do them, and keep coming up and you didn't do them. And that's where you need to do a little bit more investigation in terms of what's coming up for you. Why are you afraid to do that thing? Or why are you putting it off? What do you think will happen when you try to do it? And And I mean, for me, what always works there is, I talk to a coach about that, because it really helps me to unpick below the surface level
Mhm.
of, why am I not making those reels? What is it that I don't want to do? And, fundamentally, it can come down to as much as like, oh, I don't like the way my face looks on video.
Or I think I need to dance it out, right? All the things. I love what you shared there too, because it brought up a lot of things, only a lot for me, but I'm sure for a lot of other women that, let's say, because you are busy, and this might be the time that you hire the VA
Mm,
you've now recognized, because I think a lot of times when we're in our business and we do all the things, right? When you want to hire somebody, you're like, okay, well, I've been doing all the things. What do I need to delegate now? Right? Like,
yeah,
what do I give out? And then now with this, you've already broken it down. Like, this robs my energy. Can I give this off to somebody else that maybe they're better at than I am? Right. So I love that, because once you go through that process, then you can actually know too, um, later on in your business, when you can afford, or whatever you got going on, that you can actually delegate to somebody else to be able to take over for you. And just the way you broke that down made a lot of sense.
that's such a good point, actually. The thing that I didn't mention, which that's reminded me of, is there may also be things that you should stop doing, that you are currently doing, that you should stop. And maybe you should be delegating them, and maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should just be axing them. And so one
True.
of the tools that I teach my clients is one that I learned from another coach called Corinne Crabtree, who you may know if you're in that space. She's a weight loss coach. She makes tens of millions of dollars every year. She's incredible. And she talks about kind of 4 categories of activity. So whenever you're planning to do something, you start and you say, my goal is to get 5 clients. What are all of the things I need to do to make that happen? And so, maybe that is, I need to make offers. I need to post on my Instagram. I need to go and meet new people. And you just write them all down. And then you classify them into things that you know how to do. So things that are easy and things that are hard. And then you take the list of things that are easy and you classify those into things that make a big difference towards me getting my clients, and things that make less difference. So one thing people might have on there, they might, oh, I need a coaching website, or I need a website for my business. Actually, that's not a big mover towards getting those clients. Meeting people, telling them what you do, offering them your product or service, that's going to have a much bigger impact. So that might be something that you then look at and say, actually, you know what? Building a website, I don't know how to do that. It's expensive. I don't know what I'm doing. Doesn't move me towards my goal. I'm not going to do that right now. And that will have a huge impact on that feeling of busyness, because we always think about adding more things in. Oh, I need a new system. I need, I need a VA, which will help, but will also mean that you have to learn to manage a VA. So sometimes you just need to sit there and go, back burner. We're not going to do that right now. And maybe I'll come back to it later, and maybe I won't.
Yes, I love that. That's brilliant advice, because I know that I think people will tend to put more on their plate just to procrastinate really having the real conversation of getting in the DMs, and really having the harder conversation of doing your offers and getting the clients. They do all the surface stuff out here, but actually doing the work inside, right? And I know that hey, it's happened to me in my own business a lot of times, because you just don't have that energy, or that, I don't know what it is, sometimes it just holds you back. So you get yourself busyness, and so you feel busy, right? You're fake working is what I call it.
I'm
You're-
productive. I'm doing all the things. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like that fear will overcome you, and so
And
you won't really get in and do the work.
it is, it is scary, because you're making we are making it mean. I say you, but that's not true. I need to be in this. This is very inclusive. We make it mean when we make an offer and somebody doesn't take it up. We make it mean that they're rejecting us.
Right.
And so that feels awful.
Mhm.
And so we don't want to do it. And so we procrastinate, and we think, well, I'm just going to do all of these other things that look like they're getting me there, but I won't actually get to that crunch point of someone telling me no. Whereas again, I think it's really helpful to sort of reframe this. They're saying no to the offer that you made, and they're saying not right now.
Mm-hmm.
They might, they might come back later and want that offer. They might want your next offer. They might, lurk and watch you on Instagram for 2 years before they actually buy from you, which I definitely have done. So
We've all been there. And we've
so
had clients do the same. Like, I've been watching you for so long, and I finally said, okay,
yeah. And so I think it's about breaking that down. It's all of this is about separating yourself, your worth, your value from your business and from the activities that you take in your business, and understanding that, hard as it can be sometimes to really genuinely feel, your worth is infinite and constant and cannot ever be taken away from you, even if you made 100 offers today and every single person said no.
Yeah, love that. Well, that was a lot for today. And it was great. And I appreciate you sharing all your value, your tips to help so many women out there. So, Charlotte, let us know where they can connect with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're here on Facebook. Connect with me on Facebook. You can find me as Charlotte Rooney. I'm also on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time there. Again, Charlotte Rooney. I do Instagram, but less. So yeah, please do connect with me. Come and talk to me. I absolutely love helping people to find the joy in what they're doing. It's my mission in life is a world of work where everybody feels fulfilled. They are giving and getting what they need from work, not feeling drained and overwhelmed and burnt out. So if you feel like that, or someone who does, I really want to be able to help them and work with them. I have lots of different ways that you can do that. So come talk to me. I'm quite friendly.
Yes, we can tell. This is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Charlotte, for being here today. And we'll chat soon. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, ladies, once again, Kimberly, thank you so much for being here. You are so welcome. And, here's the thing, ladies, if you love what we're doing, if you love what we're sharing, please let us know below, because we have been going live every single week, bringing other women entrepreneurs and sharing their gifts to help you rise up in your business, right? To help you break free of what's locking and holding you back. And if you have a sister out there that is in business that, that she would be a great person for us to interview, even have her, shout out to us in the DMs and let us know. So that brings me to this now. If you haven't heard, we are doing a live challenge, a 4-day live challenge. So if you're needing to attract leads into your business and you're not sure how to do this, you don't know how to use attraction marketing, you don't know how to put yourself out there in a way that people are raising their hands and saying, yes, I want what you offer. I want what you got going on, or I just trust you. And then they get into your world a little bit deeper. If you're not having that happen, you have a couple things that you need to learn how to use this online space to really bring in those people that are raising their hand and saying, you are the girl that I need to work with, or you're the girl that is selling the products that I need. So we are having attraction marketing. It's coming up. It's called Attract Leads on Autopilot. And there is no techie stuff. There is none of that. I'm really diving deep, teaching you how I was able to bring on over 200 customers, okay, by attracting people to me. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to unlock everything in 4 days. Yes, 4 days. It comes with a workbook, so you're going to get down and dirty with me. And so if that is you and you're like, yes, I'm in, I want to learn, drop leads below, and I will make sure that you get that information. All right, ladies, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And like Charlotte said, if you need to get underneath that procrastination and stay out of burnout, then she might be the next girl that you need to speak to. All right, reach out to her and take care, you guys. Bye-bye for now.